And we are back with another video, and I needed to talk to you guys about what's happening on a global basis for this revolution, because we are definitely, everything is shifting right now, and part of recognizing where we are in the trend cycle is looking at these repeatable patterns. Now, we know prior to 2020, there was a rise in populism. And with the cerveza disease, all of that got quashed. So what's happening in that now? Here we are, 4 years later, 2024. And we're back. But before we get started, make sure you click that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and leave us a comment, because it really helps the algorithm, and we really got to build this channel and get more and more people watching this information so they can make educated choices that frankly puts your best interest first. And what we do know is that right along, there's been a lot of issues that have been happening, and little pieces falling here and little pieces falling there of the global economy. But let's take a look at what's happening with the protesters, because definitely back like a little bit more than a year ago, 5/5 of 23, you had over 400 significant anti-government protests. All right, well, where are we on 6/27, which was the most current one that they updated? There's a 400. 700. So in just a little over a year, we're looking at significant anti-government protests almost doubling. Well, let's see. Also in 5/5 of 2023, there were 132 countries that have experienced significant protests. Considering the fact that there's 196 countries in the world, 132 of them is pretty significant. That was a little bit more than a year ago. Oh, we're up to 147 today in a little bit more than a year. Also, we've had 135 significant economic anti-government protests that have occurred since 2017. Where are we sitting today? 258. So what this looks like to me is the rise in populism is happening yet again. What we don't know is how many of these instances happen before this whole thing just implodes. Another piece comes out, another piece comes out, and what happens when enough pieces come out? Let's take a look, because these are just a couple of examples. And I know you're going to go, well, oh, that's over there. That's not happening in the good old USA. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But Bangladesh imposes nationwide curfew as deadly protests over government jobs escalate. Isn't that interesting? They deployed the military forces to maintain order, because desperate governments do desperate things. And they had police impose a strict curfew with a shoot on sight order. These are peaceful protests, or maybe they get a little not so peaceful. But the chaos has highlighted cracks in Bangladesh's governance and economy, and the frustration of young graduates who face a lack of good jobs. Where else do you think that's happening? Like everywhere in the world. So what do you think we're going to get? Different results? That's what they want us to think. But keep in mind that desperate governments do desperate things. And when they're trying to hold on to control, they will absolutely 100% make choices they would not otherwise make. And so do the population, so do the people. And remember, there are more of us than there are of them. I say let's do a peaceful revolution into sound money, because what do governments also do? They print and they print and they print and they devalue the currency. And frankly, it doesn't matter how many of these things you have. It matters what you can do with them. So, anti-tax demonstrations spread nationwide and highlight Kenya's structural challenges. Moody's, that is the investment services that grade give all of these investment grades. Moody's this week downgraded Kenya's rating one notch to CAA1, or 7 levels into junk. Well, I think you know what junk means. Junk is junk is junk. I never liked it as a stockbroker. I don't like it today. A direct result of the withdrawal of a law that would have taxed everything from bread to diapers. Taxed everything from bread to diapers. How do governments generate income? Through fees, and primarily through taxation. So if you think that you are immune because you live in the U.S. or you live anywhere else, you need to think again, because when it becomes more obvious to populations, well, then you get revolt once it is too onerous. New faces. This is what also gives me hope, but I want a peaceful protest. New faces of protest. Kenya's Gen Z anti-tax revolutionary, a bold and new generation of young Kenyan protesters has emerged on the streets, forcing the government to back down on some of a slew of unpopular tax proposals. What started as anger on TikTok about a controversial finance bill has morphed into a revolt without being organized by political parties. Isn't that interesting? So this is my point, you guys. We can come together in community and we can make a difference. If we don't, when they reset us into this new digital surveillance economy, what are you going to do? Especially if all your wealth is held in intangible fiat money assets. There's nothing you can do. But the young are beginning to notice, and we've talked about this before, and we've talked about how the younger generation in China is buying gold, and in South Korea, and in the US, right? I mean, Costco, Amazon. Do I think that's where you should buy your gold and silver? No, I do not. But what it indicates is that the public is waking up, because these guys would not be carrying it if there weren't buyers for it. And they're doing a lot of business in physical gold and silver. Bullion, but still physical. So desperate people do desperate things. When you push them far enough, they revolt. There is a revolution. And I'm thinking that the revolution is already underway with an almost doubling of anti-government protests. Are they going to stay intact? But what do you think? You think that we're immune? Because this is a map of the U.S. And what do we see here? This goes to July. This is a brand new map. And all those little dots that you can see on here are the rise in events, right? So there have been, in the U.S., rising to 12,189 protests. 79 of them have turned into riots. We're going to be paying attention to this because I think even in the U.S., we are going to see more and more and more people come together and protest. And the point of all of this is that we can make a difference. That is the importance of community. What can one person do? What can I do by myself? Nothing, really, absolutely nothing. But with your help, because you know at Zang Enterprises, we support community and sound money, both locally as well as globally. We can make a difference. We have to do this around the world. We have to come together and say no. There is no place on this earth. I get people that ask me all the time, well, is this place safer? Is this place safer? Is that place safer? No, you won't need to be. I mean, nobody is immune, including here in the good old US of A. Nobody is immune to this currency reset that we are already working through. And you know, when they take us to an extreme event and then things calm down a little bit, what we hope for is going back to normal. But I want you to just think about this for a minute. For those of you that were born before 2008. We are in a different world than we were back in 2007. We are in a different world than we were prior to 2020. We are in a different world. There is no such thing as normal, other than the fact that what we're dealing with is a fiat money, a currency life cycle issue. Recognizing the patterns and what that looks like, quite honestly, is your absolute best defense. Because everything has a life cycle. I guarantee you, I am at a different point in my life cycle at almost 70 than my granddaughter at 9.5 is. And you aren't going to look at her and go, boy, I bet you she's going to be somewhere around 70. Just like you're not going to look at me and go, oh, I bet she's going to be 10 on her next birthday. It's just recognizing what things look like at the different parts in the life cycle. And it's all repetitive. History, they like to say that this time is different, but quite honestly, if you're doing the same thing as over 4,800 currencies have done in the past, what do you really think? Do you think this time is different? It's never different. You want to have your position built on a solid foundation of sound money. This is money that they cannot inflate away. But you also need food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. And arguably, community has frankly become the most important piece of what I talk about, because we simply do not have the luxury of time that we once had. And when I'm seeing the rise in these global protests, this is significant. This is one of the things that always happens during currency regime shifts, and we're already walking through it. It's not something that I'm waiting for. It's something that's already happening. So what do you want to do? If you're local, things do get very, very local, and they will in this next crisis like we experienced back in 2020. And that's why, I wish that we had more time, and I can't tell you how much time we have. Who knows, right? Maybe they're going to come up with something else to kick the can down the road for a minute more. But I don't think so. I think they have done everything that they can do. I think they are between a rock and a hard place. The next step will be to lower rates, and that'll increase the inflation. And that means that people are going to notice that more. And bam, you've got revolution. Here, it's so simple. Just convert your garbage fiat that's getting inflated away into a sound money portfolio. Come together in local communities so that you have security in all of those areas, and come together globally so that we have a seat at the table. One person can't do it. But what I've been showing you over and over and over again is if we come together, we can make a positive difference for a lot of people. So until next we meet, please be safe out there. And do not forget to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, share. Help everybody, help build this community so that we can make that difference. I know we can. And by the way, if you haven't looked at it yet, you want to make sure that you're looking at the recent video I did on the longest inverted yield curve for bonds, because they want you to think this time is different too. It's not different. And the longer that yield curve stays inverted, the worse the next crisis is going to become. So again, until next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.